when we are anxious and fearful, when we get worked up when things in life go sideways, when we feel like we have to fight for our place and fight for our protection, that is a sign that we are trying to exercise control over the things and the people that we really don't have any business having control over. And so then, prayer is not about trying to get God to do what we want God to do. No. Nor is prayer about getting other people to do the things that we want them to do. And prayer is certainly not about changing everything and everyone except for me. On the contrary, the primary purpose of prayer is to change us, to change what we care about, to change what we work towards. Prayer changes how we see one another and how we see those that we would rather not see. And like the laughing gas, prayer strips us of our fear and our inhibitions and whatever barriers or worries that exist in our mind so that we can come to rest, so that we can rejoice, so that we can be thankful and say, I'm flying, Daddy, I'm flying. In prayer, we let go of everything we're trying to force or control or manipulate, and we come to rest. Why? Why can we come to rest? Because in that moment we can trust that Jesus is Lord of all. And so, to pray is to change. Prayer is the central avenue God uses to transform us. If we are unwilling to change, we will abandon prayer as a noticeable characteristic of our lives. The closer we come to the heartbeat of God, the more we see our need and the more we desire to be conformed to Christ. So the challenge to you this morning is this. Do you want to change? I mean, really change. I mean, let go of the things that really aren't you. Let go of the things that you are trying to force and control. Do you want to be more like Jesus? And what I mean by that is living well and loving well. Or maybe the challenge for you this morning is this. Do you want to fly? I mean, lose your inhibitions, lose your worries, and truly be free? Because if you do, prayer is not something that you have to add to your already busy schedule. No, prayer is this posture that you adopt to be in sync with who God is and with what God is doing in this world.
Now, one of the best ways that I know to cultivate an awareness of God throughout the day is to take time apart to spend intentionally in the presence of God. And this leads us to the third invitation to pray, centering prayer. Now, centering prayer is a way to pray without words. The intention at the heart of centering prayer is to quiet our hearts and our minds so that we can be totally attentive to God. One author I read said that centering prayer is a little like sitting in a noisy restaurant with a friend, but being so interested and caught up in them that you don't hear any of the background noise. All you hear is them. And centering prayer is a way to give God our undivided attention, no matter what other things might be calling for our attention. So in the last couple of weeks, we've talked about solitude and silence and how these practices help to center us before God. Centering prayer is another layer we can add to these practices. So first we find space alone, we find a desert place, solitude. Then we get rid of outer distractions. we practice silence, and finally, we quiet our inner chatter so that we can hear from God. Centering prayer. Here's how you do it. So, first, practice that solitude. Find a space away from others, a quiet corner of the house that is a retreat for you at a time when distractions are minimal and things are quiet. Silence. Make sure you have a good chunk of time, and it's helpful to start a timer for that set period of time so that you can be present while you're praying and not be thinking about how much time you've already done this or how much time is left. And I recommend starting with a period of 15 minutes, but you can start with 10 if 15 feels really overwhelming. Pro tip, night owl is a nice, gentle sound to help you end this time of prayer. It's not very consistent with the practice to have your alarm go off like brr, brr, brr. So, pro tip. Before you enter this time of prayer, choose a word that helps you focus your attention on God. It could be a word like Jesus or peace, or a name that you have for God like defender, provider, a word that helps draw your attention back to God when you get distracted. And this word serves as a guard for your attention. So for instance, sometimes when I'm talking to my kids, I can see their thoughts wandering, and I might say their name or say, hey, pay attention, to get them to come back to me, to pay attention to me again. And that's what your sacred word is for. It's to bring your attention back to God and back to the moment if you get lost in distractions. This word also serves as a kind of invitation to God or consent to let God nurture you in the moments of quiet prayer. So, get into a comfortable posture in a chair that's comfy and place yourself in the presence of God. Take a moment. Settle into the silence. You'll probably have lots of thoughts and distractions pop up as you do so, and that's okay. That's very normal. We have a lot of stuff going on in our hearts and minds, and it just takes time sometimes for us to settle in. And sometimes of prayer, we don't even settle in. That's okay. Just let the thoughts come and then let them drift away. And if a thought comes up that's sticky, that you want to grab onto and ruminate on and think about, just return back to your sacred word and settle your attention back on God. And then just continue to do this for the duration of your prayer time. Give your undivided attention to God and continue to use that sacred word to bring your attention back to God when distractions come up. Just be with God. You'll want to come out of this prayer time slowly and gently. So just give yourself some time at the end to do so. Now, this kind of prayer might be a little uncomfortable for some of us because it feels like we're not doing anything or accomplishing anything. It's hard for us to not say anything during prayer. But this kind of prayer is a way to allow the Spirit of God to nurture us in our deepest parts. Thanks for my friend Gloria for giving me that image this week. It can be in a place beyond our knowing and our feeling, but it still bears fruit in our lives. And often it bears fruit in times beyond this specific time of prayer. In particular, this practice of prayer helps us to be aware of God's presence in each and every moment of the day. It creates in us the space, the capacity to listen for and hear God's voice in other times. And it develops a quiet center that we can take with us through our days and then retreat to when we need it.